Hey guys, post-processing Costas here, just to let you know that this video was not planned. I had no intention of doing this video, but I actually enjoyed the theory and I wanted to put it out there for people to see. And this was taken directly from the stream. So I hope you enjoy the video and I will see you in the next stream or YouTube video. Now, my mind is blown away. So either there is a story, either there is something. Let's talk about it. Let's take a minute and talk about this. This is my theory. Either it went everything like we've seen, or there is something hidden behind it. And what's hidden behind it, in my opinion, is that Booker killed Anna. So Anna was his daughter. I mean, yes, we realized that during the last 5-10 minutes of the game. But what actually has happened was that Booker killed his daughter. So this is just a theory. So hear me out, because these last 5-10 minutes made me think and put in some puzzles together. And I might be completely wrong with this, but this is the theory. Booker killed Anna, which was his daughter. Everything that we've played through so far is a fiction of his, is a creation, a fiction of his imagination. He created all this in his head. And Comstock is his evil self who killed his daughter. The bad decision, the thinking of killing and the action of killing his daughter. And Booker is the good guy who tried to stop all of this and fix all of this. That's why he created this whole Columbia and Comstock to be who he is, to have this visual representation so that he could cope with the death and the killing of Anna, his daughter. I mean, and Anna as well is just, Anna could have been his subconscious, either his subconscious of another fiction of his imagination that he created. Because if he killed Anna when she was a child, I mean, he doesn't know how she looks like. Long story short, none of it is real. Everything is in Booker's imagination. Booker is the representation of his good side. Anna is his daughter, but also his subconscious. And Comstock is the evil part of Booker's self. That's why he said, I am both. I am Comstock and Booker. Why else would he say that?
The one that I have today is pretty crazy. I do have evidence supporting it, but I also have some evidence kind of disputing it as well. So, without further ado, let's hop into the video. So, what is this fan theory, you might ask? Well, you can probably tell by the title, or the thumbnail, or even the description for that matter. We're going to be talking about the possibility that Songbird ends up being Booker DeWitt. Now, if you guys don't want spoilers for Bioshock Infinite or Burial at Sea Episode 1 and 2, feel free to click off the video now, go play it, and then come back and watch this. So without further ado, let's hop into the evidence support.
Well, we haven't played Buried at Sea, so if you don't want spoilers, like he said, you can go play it and come back. But we're gonna continue
And disputing it. So, I'm going to give you guys a little context about everything going into this fan theory. All of the sources will be linked in the description if you guys want to go check all of the research out for yourself as well. So, the design. A voxophone recording along with blueprints found at Fink Factory in Burial at Sea Episode 2 show that Songbird was created by Fink Industries. As with most of Fink's technology, it was based on designs discovered through a tear. The blueprints were described as showing a merger of machine and man. That was the lesser of man, yet the greater of both parties. In reality, Fink managed to gain the design blueprints for the Big Daddy, collaborating with Yi Suchong of Rapture. Experiments were made to create the beast. At first, multiple experiments were done with animals such as gorillas and dogs to create a successful psychological pair bond with Elizabeth. In the end, a crude prototype was assembled, connected to a breather. Attempts to psychologically indoctrinate the prototype were not enough, so Fink and his men left it abandoned at his old laboratory, which you can see in episode 2 of Burial at Sea, and attempted multiple times to figure out how to replicate the song's pair bond with its own Big Daddy prototypes. So, Burial at Sea episode 2, we find out that Songbird is both man and machine. Well, what does Booker DeWitt have to do with this? Why do people think that Songbird could actually be Booker DeWitt, or more so, an alternate version of Booker DeWitt? Maybe one that didn't sell Anna and got brought to Columbia to be very protective of his daughter. Who knows? So now, let's get into the supporting evidence of this fan theory. So, one thing that I personally noticed that the fan theory didn't really pick up on was the fact that Elizabeth comes across a note that explains what oxytocin is, and I will play that clip for you right now.
What's that?
It's a skeletal formula for oxytocin. That's the chemical that bonds mothers to children, women to men, and
Songbirds to little girls.
apparently not. Fink dismissed it as an unsuitable vector.
So, this audio cue both shows evidence and it also rejects evidence as well. So, in this universe, oxytocin, which Elizabeth explains, bonds women to men, mothers and fathers to children, etc. It didn't work for Songbird. Perhaps in another universe, it did. So, I thought that was pretty cool as well. Now, the second one is that the person in Songbird, since we found out that it was half man, half machine, what would they use, or who would they use more specifically, to try to imprint with Elizabeth or Anna? Are you going to use some random person in Colombia to try to get her to imprint to? No, you're not going to do that. Realistically, you're going to use the closest DNA match to her, and obviously, that's going to be a parent. Booker DeWitt says in the main game that his wife died, or his girlfriend, fiance, whatever it may be. Basically, Anna's mother died.
Which was the
So
main game.
that kind of leaves one person left, and that's Booker. So take that with a grain of salt and take that how you will. So let's hop in to probably the most compelling evidence. So sit back. This one's going to be a doozy. Originally, when I was playing Infinite, I didn't look at this and I didn't really analyze it because I was too engrossed with the story that was Bioshock Infinite. So, we're going to be looking at the 3 character deaths of Booker, Comstock, and Songbird, and what the correlation is between all 3. So, we look at Comstock. Booker drowned him in somewhat of a bird bath or something of the sort. I don't exactly know what to call it, but I'm pretty sure it was a bird bath that he was using as kind of a sink or a hand wash station or something of the sort.
I think it was
We
a
look
bird bath.
at Booker. He was drowned in the river where originally he was going to be baptized and turn into Zachary Comstock. Then we look at Songbird at the end of Bioshock Infinite. He was drowned by Elizabeth.
Before he continues, now that he mentions that, my theory on that is that his guilt of losing Elizabeth killed him, and his guilt representing in the form of Elizabeth. Well, that's the theory, that his guilt killed him, not Anna. I mean, yes, it was Anna, but it was his guilt. I mean, not his guilt killed him. Probably he killed himself, but it was just represented that like that.
In the ocean outside of Rapture. So, what is the correlation of all three of these character deaths? Well, first, they all had to do with water. Like I said, Comstock drowned. Booker drowned. Songbird drowned. What's the second correlation? Elizabeth had something to do with all three deaths. Comstock was holding on to Elizabeth's hand as he was being drowned by Booker. Elizabeth was the one that ended up drowning Booker in the river. And then Elizabeth was the one that opened the tear to Rapture and had Songbird stuck in the ocean outside of Rapture. I know. Crazy, right?
Yeah, but she
This
didn't
absolutely
kill
blows my
Comstock.
mind. The fact that Elizabeth had something to do with all three deaths, and all three character deaths had something to do with drowning. That just completely blew my mind when I read this fan theory, so I really don't know.
I mean, yeah, she had something to do with the death of Songbird and not Comstock or Booker, but she didn't really have anything to do with the death of Comstock. That was Booker's deal. It was Booker's actions, and she tried to stop it.
What to think about it. I'm not sitting here saying that Songbird is Booker DeWitt. It's just a lot of things end up supporting it with little to no evidence actually rejecting that idea. So, with that being said, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. I really, really want you guys to expand on this fan theory.
I mean, look, if you actually think about it, it kind of does make sense that Songbird would be uh Booker, because at the end Booker said, "I am both. I am Comstock and I am Booker." So why wouldn't he be Songbird as well? If I mean, at the end he said Anna said there's a million worlds out there, and if the one world he's Booker, in the other world he's Comstock, and in the other world he's Comstock, Songbird. Maybe in this world they all were together in the same reality, let's say. So let's say the game we played is this one, okay? So if this universe it was Comstock, this universe it was Booker, and this universe it was Songbird. Maybe this universe where we played now were all three of them together. So it could be Booker in a different dimension being Songbird. And like he said now in the theory, they all died by drowning. Take a minute and think of it. They all died by drowning. At the end, Booker said he is both Comstock and Booker. So he is could be. I'm not saying he is, but he could be Songbird as well. Okay, let's see. What's this guy have to say? JV.
I believe the best way for me to explain the ending is to walk through the end, step by step, and jump back to several points in the game to support my ideas. I'm going to start from where I think the beginning of the end happens, when Booker and Elizabeth finally catch up to Comstock on his Hand of the...
Look, he even says, "My, how have you grown?" I mean, Comstock had Elizabeth captured in the tower this whole time, and he was observing her. So why would he say now, "My, how you have grown," if it is Booker? And Booker hasn't seen her grow because he sold her away to wipe out his debt.
The Prophet airship. In typical fashion, Comstock has this beautiful scene of biblical proportions set up in an attempt to brainwash Elizabeth, just like he's brainwashed the rest of Columbia.
Seed of the prophet shall sit the throne and drown in flame the mountains of man.
In addition to the Archangel giving him Elizabeth's prophecy to succeed Comstock, it also told him that he should protect Elizabeth from the false shepherd, Booker DeWitt. This false shepherd would keep her from fulfilling her prophecy, so Comstock had to stop him at all costs.
I did all of that to keep you from her. when all I needed was to tell her the truth.
What truth? We don't know at this point. Then he does something that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Ask him, child. Ask him what happened to your finger. Ask DeWitt.
The finger? Really? Why? It's pretty obviously pointed out to the player in the first scene. Elizabeth has this strange thimble on her finger. But big whoop-de-doo. She actually does mention it earlier in the game, when Booker and Elizabeth go through multiple tears to get the guns for the Vox Populi from Chen Lin, the Chinese gunsmith.
I don't remember.
What?
My finger.
Sorry, I didn't.
It's all right. It's as much mystery to me as anyone else. Maybe Songbird knows, but he's not talking.
I'm sorry.
What for? I get to wear this stylish thimble to cover up my hideous deformity. I hear they're all the rage in Paris.
What actually seemed like non-important small talk turns out to be a huge difference in the end. However, we're not quite to that part yet, so just keep that in mind as we continue on. So when Comstock goes crazy over the finger, Booker reacts immediately and starts strangling him and accusing him of what the player believes to be the truth, that Comstock is to blame for all of Elizabeth's troubles in her life, which he actually is. Comstock's final words are strange too.
Tell me! It is finished.
What is finished? We don't know. Yet. Elizabeth then remarks about the finger. Out of all of that, Booker...
It is finished, meaning what? His journey? Because if all of them are the same person, at the end, they die. In every dimension, they die. Songbird, Booker, and Comstock. So that would be the end. At the end of his journey. Because he is doomed to be killed.
Booker murdering her father, she points out the finger. The finger has been pretty inconsequential up to this point, but everyone seems to be making a huge deal out of it now. Booker knows nothing about the finger, but Elizabeth isn't convinced.
About?
You too. You just can't remember it.
No.
This doesn't make much sense, since Booker just met Elizabeth on his quest to pay off his debt. Booker decides to destroy the siphon, where Elizabeth spent her whole life being drained of her tear powers, to prove that he knows nothing about her finger. The epic battle ensues, and Booker finally sends Songbird to destroy Monument Island, the siphon. This is where everything gets trippy. Songbird goes out of control and swoops back to attack Booker when Elizabeth stops him in his tracks by opening a tear. With the siphon being destroyed, Elizabeth is in full control of her powers. Periodically in the game, she would mention that she used to be able to control these powers when she was younger, and was even able to create and open new tears. The siphon drained her of her powers, so with that out of the way, her power is unchained. This tear that she opens effectively kills Songbird, and then you start to realize where you are.
What is this place? Elizabeth?
Rapture. When I first realized our location, my jaw dropped. We're in one of the first areas we encounter in the original Bioshock. But
First
why?
game, yeah.
Elizabeth describes it as a doorway, but really doesn't explain much else. Ascending to the top, Elizabeth opens the original lighthouse door to reveal more lighthouses.
Because Colombia is Rapture. It's just a different doorway from a different lighthouse. Maybe.
See? Not stars. They're doors.
Doors to...
To everywhere.
Look, parentheses, I haven't played all the games. So I'm still have some blank spaces. Missing some pieces, but this is what I know at the moment.
All that's left is the choosing.
What are all these lighthouses? Why are we... Who are...
There are a million worlds. All different and all similar. Constants and variables.
What?
There's always a lighthouse. There's always a man. There's always a city.
How do you know this?
I can see them through the doors. You. A songbird. But sometimes, something's different. Yet the same.
Constants and variables.
Yes.
So that was a lot to take in. In order to understand the whole million worlds concept, you have to understand the multiverse theory, a theme that has been present throughout the game. Via a quick Wikipedia definition, a multiverse is a hypothetical set of multiple possible universes that together comprise everything that exists and can exist, the entirety of space, time, matter, and energy, as well as the physical laws and constants that describe them. Heavy stuff, I know. In layman's terms, there are multiple parallel universes that exist. Elizabeth has the power to traverse these universes by opening.
Well, not multiple, they're infinite basically. Because, I mean, the universe doesn't stop, and so so the parallel universe don't stop as well.
Tears. She explains that there are constants and variables, which play a huge role in understanding the very ending. In the multiple universes that are present in Bioshock Infinite, there are absolute constants and variables. She explains that there's always a lighthouse, always a man, always a city. Now you see the dots are connecting. That very line reveals the tie-in with the original Bioshock, which seemed to be up in the air up to this point. Think about it. In one universe, we have Andrew Ryan, this maniacal ruler who so happened to have an illegitimate son with superpowers that came back to his city and was misguided by a power-hungry Fontaine. Within the story, the conflict of Dr. Tenenbaum, a genius working for Ryan, arises with the Little Sisters. They are innocent, but valuable assets to Tenenbaum, and are protected by hulking mechanical Big Daddies. But in this alternate but parallel universe, the story is very, very similar. Zachary Comstock is the maniacal ruler of Infinite. Daisy Fitzroy is the heretical rebel that entices Booker to fight for the Vox Populi against Comstock. And interwoven into the story, the centerpiece of the conflict lies Elizabeth. Her powers are invaluable, a huge asset to Comstock, and she is protected by the mechanical songbird. The Lutesses are the geniuses who've masterminded the...
So could it be that Elizabeth is the little sisters or the big sister in the other games? And the songbird is Big Daddy?
floating city of Columbia with quantum physics. They also happen to work for Comstock, but were killed because they became a threat to his goals. But where and how is Booker related to Comstock? Why is Elizabeth so valuable to the Lutesses? These are the few missing pieces at this point. Elizabeth leads Booker to another door, one that Booker actually recognizes this time. It's where he was 20 years ago, right after his participation at the Battle of Wounded Knee.
Are you ready to have your past erased? Are you ready to have your sins cleansed? Are you ready to be born again? Take my hand.
Having his past erased seems like it would be a very enticing thing for Booker, since he's so full of regret from his horrific acts committed at Wounded Knee. However, Booker refuses the baptism and requests to get the hell out of whatever nightmare he's living. Elizabeth keeps dragging him along, convinced that Comstock is there, even after Booker clearly killed the man. Through another door, we're met with a very familiar scene. Through the many flashbacks of the game, we finally see who's behind the whole "find the girl, wipe away the debt" business.
Bring us the girl?
Robert Lutece, a man who we see randomly popping up, providing sarcastic banter with an identical woman throughout the game. And then Booker's forced to give Lutece a baby. This baby girl whom we've never even seen before. Elizabeth explains that she can see through multiple doors, or universes, that Booker will inevitably give Lutece the baby, because he has to in order for them to find Comstock. So of course, Booker obliges and they enter another door, which brings us back to the very beginning of the game. Again, he questions Comstock's existence, but Elizabeth reminds him of the strange occurrences with Chen Lin and Lady Comstock. These were two instances in which these people were dead at one point, but somehow alive and conscious in a separate universe, tears that Elizabeth leads Booker through.
He is alive in a million worlds. It's not over because the prophet is dead. It will only be over when he never even lived in the first place.
Hey. Hey, the deal's off, you hear me? The deal is off! Give her back! Give her back!
Fine, are you mad?
Give her back, you son of a bitch!
It's ready, go!
No! No, no, no!
Shut down the machine!
No!
Shut it
Anna!
down! Shut down
Anna!
the machine! Now do it!
Give me back my daughter! No!
So there it is. Elizabeth led Booker to another scene in his past where it's revealed that Booker does know what happened to Elizabeth's, or Anna's, finger. A younger Comstock hired Robert Lutece to blackmail Booker into giving Comstock his daughter, Anna. Logically, that means that Comstock escaped with Anna through a tear created by the Luteces, raised Booker's daughter as his own, and renamed her Elizabeth. So if you're following closely, you'll realize that the whole plot of Infinite is that Booker is actually sent to Columbia to reclaim his grown-up daughter that he sold in the past, and he doesn't know this entire time. But that still doesn't explain why Comstock even wants Booker's daughter. What relationship?
But who actually sent Booker to find Anna/Elizabeth? Because I don't think we were explained that in the whole game.
Is there between Booker and Comstock? Again, we're transported back to Booker's PI office.
He's gone, Booker. Anna's gone.
Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell this before when we were in the cutscene. This is another part of his guilt, that he carved the name of his daughter on his hand. It literally is the initials of Anna DeWitt, which is his daughter. That's why everybody's calling him like the false prophet, and so because he caused it and everything is in his head. It's not real. He's just trying to deal with it.
You shared this room with your regret.
And he carved it as kind of like a memoir, not memoir, remembrance to his daughter. You know, like some people do tattoos of a loved one that died or they lost. And he carved the name in his hand, on his hand.
For almost 20 years. Until one day, a man came to you, offered you a chance at redemption. A chance for us to be together.
Now we see that it was actually Lutece that offered Booker a chance at redemption, at getting back at his regret. Being a master of quantum physics, Lutece has the technology to bring Booker into this universe where he can reclaim his daughter.
How do we
Bring
know
us the
this?
girl and wipe away the debt. The debt is Booker's regret that he's lived with his entire life. Regret for selling away his daughter, Anna. So here we see the reality at the beginning of the game. The Luteces dragged him into the boat, and he began to manufacture his own motives.
Booker, are you sure this is what you want?
I have to. It's the only way to undo what I've done to you.
Booker DeWitt, are you ready to
What
be
is
born
this?
again?
Why are we back here?
This isn't the same place, Booker.
Of course it is. I remember. Wait. You're not. You're not. Who are you?
You chose to walk away, but in other oceans, you didn't. You took the baptism, and you were born again as a different man.
Comstock.
It all has to end, to have never started. Not just in this world, but in all of ours.
Smother him in the crib.
Smother, 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 smother.
Mother.
Before the choice is made, before you are reborn. He's Zachary Comstock. He's Booker DeWitt.
No. I'm both.
So yeah, he dies here in a different universe. He's reborn as Zachary Comstock.
Okay, so the many Elizabeths explain that this point in Booker's past, where he goes to the baptism right after Wounded Knee, is the exact point where Father Comstock is either born or not born. Remember constants and variables? Booker's presence at the baptism is a constant, but the variable is the choice that is made. Take the baptism or don't take the baptism. It's simple. If he refuses it, he remains Booker DeWitt. The man that lives his life with regret for his actions at Wounded Knee, the man that ends up selling his baby daughter Anna, the man that carves her initials in his hand as penance, and lives 20 years of his life wallowing in all of his regret. Until another man, Lutece, comes along and offers him a chance at reuniting with his daughter Anna, and then becomes the man that lives the tale of Bioshock Infinite. Or, the other choice is that Booker takes the baptism and is washed of all of his sins, erased of his past, and is reborn as a new man, Zachary Comstock. Either way, the decision was made here, and the solution to the main conflict of the story? Drown Comstock at the source, smother him in the crib, which, in effect, drowns Booker. As a result, the several copies of Elizabeth from alternate universes start disappearing, and the one remains. Remember Comstock's last words? He knew this was the result. Now, it's very easy to get lost in the multiverse theory with this story. What if Booker was originally born as Hitler? What if he was this or that? No! The constant is Booker's presence at that baptism. The millions of worlds and alternate universes branched off at this one point in Booker's past. There is no denying this. And there are still so many details to iron out, so many loose ends still untied. Why does Comstock want Booker's baby, Anna? Was Anna born or conceived before Wounded Knee or after? Did the one Elizabeth remaining at the end disappear after the screen went black, or did she live? This obviously determines if she was born before or after the baptism, but we can't say for sure because we don't know. Given what we have, I can only think of one logical explanation. Comstock never even had a child, and when he somehow crossed paths with the Luteces, he must have expressed his want for a child to fulfill the prophecy. Seed of the prophet, drown the mountains of men in flame, yada yada yada. And so they helped him travel to the alternate universe where Booker had Anna and stole him from his alternate self. More proof of this being the case is that Comstock is described as being sterile by the Luteces, also Lady Comstock, due to too much interaction with the Tears in multiple universes. And there's no really explanation for that. But still, doesn't explain why Comstock didn't or couldn't have a baby, because he didn't interact with the Tears until he met the Luteces. So it's not like he expressed the want for a child, then became sterile from the Tears. Also, we learned from the interactions with Lady Comstock that she believed Elizabeth came from some strange experiment. So this baby was definitely not born in a universe where Booker had taken the baptism and been born again as Comstock. Then, of course, Comstock betrays the Luteces because he knows how smart they are, mastering the ability to occupy multiple universes at once. Which leads me to another loose end, the Luteces. Is it the Luteces or just Lutece? Throughout the game, the two appear and disappear quite too often. Is it the
It even says it there. That proves my theory that none of it is real. The mind of the subject will desperately struggle to create memories where none exist, proving my theory that nothing is real and it's all in Booker's head. Well, not proving it, but it's one of the proofs. Oh.
Luteces or just Lutece? Throughout the game, the two appear and disappear quite too often. The reality is that in Booker's universe, Robert Lutece existed. He's the one that approached Booker in the first place. However, in Comstock's universe, Rosalind is the Lutece that existed. That Lutece was born as a woman instead of a man. She's the one who mastered quantum physics and allowed Columbia to float in the sky. And as a result, from their combined genius and brainpower, they figured out a way to coexist in Comstock's universe. Absolutely brilliant. And even when Comstock killed both of them off, they still managed to exist, presumably from other alternate universes, and follow Booker along in his journey in Columbia. They aren't even tied into Booker's Wounded Knee baptism or non-baptism constant, and that gives them an excuse to disappear and reappear at any moment in time. The Luteces are also the primary reason for driving the narrative, the whole story. Their goal is to use Booker to get revenge on Comstock by taking away Elizabeth from Comstock. It's almost like they're doing the reverse polar opposite thing that they did to Booker in the past. Instead of aiding Comstock in stealing Anna from Booker, this time they aid Booker in stealing Elizabeth, who is still Anna, from Comstock. Wow, I know that was a bit confusing, but if you let it sink in, it makes sense.
That was
With all this multiverse,
confusing.
alternate, parallel, universe, mumbo-jumbo, there is still a concrete timeline of events. The Luteces always point out that it isn't a question of what or who, but when. Since Comstock is older, his universe had to be before Booker's for him to go back, steal Anna, and raise her as Elizabeth in Columbia. The order goes something like this. Booker DeWitt lives his past as a hero at Wounded Knee. He enters the baptism, accepts it, and goes on to be Comstock. Comstock meets the Luteces, they work for him, and offer him a way to get a child. They help Comstock steal Anna from Booker in an alternate universe, and Comstock raises her as his own, as Elizabeth. Then Comstock kills the Luteces and prepares himself for the arrival of the false shepherd, Booker DeWitt. Then the Luteces seek revenge on Comstock by contacting Booker DeWitt in his universe, using the washing of sins as a bargaining chip to get him to reclaim his daughter and exact revenge on Comstock. Then the story of Infinite unfolds and ends with Comstock never being born and DeWitt being drowned at the baptism after Wounded Knee. In the process, though, Booker doesn't know he's actually rescuing his daughter, and that he's actually the pawn being used by the Luteces to seek revenge on Comstock, even though it's clear on the surface that he's doing a deed to wipe away a debt. At first I thought the Luteces wiped Booker's mind clean or something, but then I realized Booker simply does not understand the whole opening tears and traveling to different universes idea at all. Comstock does, but they're different people in different universes. Booker is simply the man who gave away Anna, his baby, regretted it for 20 years, and accepted an offer at redemption. Somehow, though, they did get in his head that his journey to Columbia was just to pay off a gambling debt.
Why did it explain in the game that it was a gambling debt?
When actually they were giving him a real opportunity to be with his daughter.
Wait, I never heard the word gambling. Unless I don't remember in the game. So let's take a moment and think of JV's theory of Comstock and his history, because I didn't cover anything about Comstock. Of who is Comstock, where he came from, his history, and blah blah blah. JV is going into it. So if we combine JV's theory with my theory, the theory that of what I said before, they're all from different dimensions, and if we take his theory and put it here, and this is the universe where all the universes collide, then it would make sense with the Luteces and why they're helping Booker, because in one universe Comstock stole the child, stole Anna, and then killed the Luteces. But in another universe, he stole Anna, he betrayed the Luteces, but he didn't kill them, or he didn't manage to kill them. And because they are like like he said, they're masters in quantum physics or whatever, and they can use tears in either they traveled to the universe, the parallel universe where everything is combined, all the universes are combined, and they played a big role in the whole situation where they were pushing, not pushing, helping out Booker to reach his end goal. Or there was another reason that I got lost in my thoughts now.
And that brings me to another point. This whole journey with Booker actually ends up as him spending quality time with his daughter. It's really a sweet story when you look at it from that perspective. And it's too bad that it ends with her drowning him. But he does realize it at the end. And all he ever wanted to do was undo what he did to her.
But the Luteces, they were not giving him a chance to be with his daughter. The Luteces, if your theory of JV is correct, the Luteces were just trying to get back at Comstock. And the way to get back to Comstock is steal Anna back from him and kill him. Because of what if the theory of JV is correct and Comstock tried to kill the Luteces, then the Luteces were trying to kill him back, and they managed by manipulating Booker. I am getting lost in my head. I'm having an explosion right now with all of this theory.
He actually did. One last thing I don't quite understand, but isn't 100% contingent on the ending is, how does Elizabeth have these powers in the first place? The only other person, or people, in the Bioshock narrative that have the ability to travel through the tears are the Luteces. And they acquired the skill through sheer intellect and figuring it out. How did Elizabeth...
Because the Luteces, the guy is an alternate universe of the woman, and the woman is the wife of Booker in another universe. That's why Anna has the superpowers of traveling.
Elizabeth gained this skill? Is it from the act of traveling through to another universe as a baby? Was she born with it? Is it the fact that her pinky came in contact with the tear as a baby? Did that give her powers? Or is it just that she was raised in an alternate universe? Did the Luteces give her the powers, perhaps? Nobody knows for sure. And one more theory that I didn't really catch on while I was playing the game, or right after I beat the ending, I actually found this on the internet. You know, a lot of people have been talking about this ending, of course, and that's why I'm making this video. But something that I didn't catch on was the infinite loop kind of theory, I guess. So, in the beginning, when you meet the Luteces and they have the heads and tails, you see on the back of Robert Lutece, he's wearing that chalkboard, he's got like a bunch of heads, and apparently like Booker flipped a coin that many times and he got heads that many times. And I thought that was just a good representation of, you know, the whole multiple universe thing. And there's a universe where, you know, logically it could.
Because whoever doesn't know the theory of the multiverse is basically it's yourself in different universes, but the outcome it's always the same. You meet the same people, you maybe or maybe not make the same actions, but the outcome is always the same. It might be a different not scenario, a different environment or a different person, visually different. Like it's me, I'm the same person, but visually I don't have this face, I have a different face in a different universe, but it's still me, and the outcome is always going to be the same. That's why Booker is always getting heads, because the outcome is always the same.
Happen, you know, they're
no matter what you do, the outcome is always going to be the same. Even if you try to change it, you cannot change it. There was a cartoon that said you can't go back to change history because history is doomed to repeat itself. No matter what you do, the outcome is gonna be the same. So no matter what you try and change in the past or in a different universe, it's going to be the same.
Could be heads every single time. I thought it was just a good representation of the multiverse theory, but what it really is it.
But I think there's a different theory as well, where there is a different a multiverse, but the outcome is different. So if you flip a coin and it's either head or tails, so if you have then two theories, three theories, four theories, four universes, that it's either head, it's either tails, the coin never existed, or it's like the coin never fell down to one of the two sides. It fell on the side. I don't know how to explain it.
Points to the fact that Booker is kind of stuck in this infinite loop, and you can kind of relate that to the title of the game, Bioshock Infinite, but he's stuck in a loop. And further explanation of this is the song Will the Circle Be Unbroken. So it's like he's stuck in a loop and they're singing Will the Circle of him being, going to Columbia over and over and over and then failing. Will it end? Will the circle be unbroken? That's what that song is about, which is just genius. It just gives you that incredible feeling. This song has been used since the beginning of the game, and it actually makes a difference in the end of the game, and it's referred to several times. So, Booker being stuck in an infinite loop trying to stop this whole thing, that's what that theory is, and I didn't pick up on that when I played through originally or when I made this whole ending explanation originally. So, alright guys, I provided the best explanation I could for this ending, but I know I'm not 100% correct, because these games are meant to be left open to interpretation. There are so many clues that relate to the ending throughout the game. It's maybe even worth a few videos just to go back and cut all of them together. So let me know if that's something you all would be interested in, because I'm interested in doing it.
Well, that was my theory. I explained my theory this whole time. My theory is that nothing exists. It's all in Booker's head. It's a combination of this plus the multiverse. And yeah, that was my theory. Shout out to JV and the Bioshock Hub for their theories. But that was my theory. Hope you enjoyed this stream. It was a big experience. If you did, make sure to follow. If this is the YouTube video, make sure to do all those things, Hope you enjoy your day or your night, depending where you're watching, and I will see you next time. In the meantime, goodbye.